Now, they used to do hearings back in the day, apparently way better than they do now. One of the way better moments is, and you won't see this in this one, we're going to do a series on these old hearings. They would have individuals who would go through the files, and then they would find the significant areas of what they believed was violating constitutional rights or sabotaging American relations with other nations. And so the committee would hear it and the public would hear it. And then the members would come on, the directors, the CIA, and things of that nature, and they would have to answer the charges that the people have found in the files. We don't hear that today. It's all closed doors. They're going over it because there's so many secrets. But as we go through this series, you're going to find out a treasure trove of activities that you see around you today has already happened before. It's being hidden from you, but the results are so in your face, it can't really be hidden. It's like, is this stupid? What's going on? But in the past, they told you exactly what they were doing. So the beginning here, you're going to watch this little news clip explaining what is going on, so you get context. And then you'll go to the hearing. It's not very long at all.
From the outset today, it was plain that much of the interrogation would revolve around the committee's disclosures yesterday of the attempts to discredit Dr. King, an intensive campaign that was waged over a 7-year span. The hand of Hoover was everywhere in the harassment of Dr. King. Adams told of 25 separate acts, acknowledging there was no legal basis for any of them. As we pick up the proceedings, Adams is being questioned about an anonymous letter sent to Dr. King in 1964, shortly before he received the Nobel Peace Prize, a letter which some suggest was an attempt to induce suicide. Democratic Chairman Frank Church quoted directly from the letter.
King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do this. Exact number has been selected for a specific reason. It has definite practical significance. You are done. There is but one way out for you.
The letter that's being read is supposedly anonymous. So this gentleman who you saw the head shake in the positive, he does a hard swallow. He's gated. He's hunched over. He's pretty much turtling.
Now, if you had received such a letter...
The other thing that we see is that he's got the believe me look pretty much plastered to his head. Even after it's been read, it is plastered. So there's high stress just from this letter.
How would you have interpreted it? What would you have thought it meant?
I have read that statement.
See the mouth moves, but like he's speaking, but there's no words coming out. We've got the believe me look still there, and he's not giving direct eye contact to the senator.
I have heard the conclusions of your staff that it was a suicide urging.
And when he's referring to the staff, he's referring to those individuals I spoke about that would go through all the files, find things that were, violating rights or the Constitution and policy of the nation, all, that kind of thing, and would present it for everyone to hear.
I can't find any basis upon which they drew that conclusion. I think that approaching it from an objective standpoint, as I read it, I don't...
As he says that believe me look is getting wider and wider to the point where his eyes are opening wider and wider. He's getting wild-eyed.
I don't know what it means. I think rather than a conclusion, it should be a speculation in a realm of possibilities as to what was intended. But I cannot, I don't understand the basis for it. It's a possibility, but I certainly would not reach such a conclusion from my reading of that statement.
Now, if you had received the letter of...
So he's throwing a lot of words at it. Pretty much, it's speculation. It's that. He's referring back to this is one of the accusations from reading through the files that was sent to Dr. King. And even with that already being brought up, you see the defiance and staying wild-eyed and stressed. I don't know.
This kind... and it had been directed to you, and you were in Dr. King's position. And you read, King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. Now that happens to roughly correspond to the time before which he was to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. What would you think that meant?
I would have to consider what I was being accused of. I would have to consider what the facts were. I would have to consider what the intent of the person was. Writing such a note coming just before Christmas, I don't know if it means is an urging to repent from something this person, whoever he was that sent it. I have no idea what it
Certainly
means.
no Christmas card, is it?
It's certainly no Christmas card.
It reads...
That's about the only time you see some relaxedness. It's certainly no Christmas card. Now, he's alluding to the context of the letter, which is the thing that's in debate at the moment, is whether he's being told to suicide himself.
It reads, you are done. There is but one way out for you. What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know if it means confession. I don't know if it means suicide as has been raised. I have no idea. You have.
So as he goes through this, I don't know if it means confession. I don't know if it means suicide. Throughout this, you see the believe me look plastered. I mean, his forehead, he's got to have a headache by the end of this meeting. If you leave your head like this all day long, you're putting so much stress and that tension, muscles, tendons, all that fun stuff that's up there, you're going to get a tension headache. And as he sits there and he's doing this, he's got his arms plastered to his side, but his elbows are bent up so his hands are visible. And he's getting away from the microphone. Oh, no.
The statement, I'm not in a position to say. I haven't interviewed anyone that was with him at the time he received it.
Would you disown this statement and say that any connection the FBI
See hard swallow there? Would you disown this statement? Hard swallow.
I had with it was utterly improper and grotesque?
I certainly would say it was improper, and I can't justify its being prepared or sent. Yes, sir.
I gather that there was never any question raised about whether Dr. King was a communist. That was never charged.
Not as a Communist Party member,
Right,
no, sir.
that's right. Never. Or that he was about or had committed acts of violence.
No.
All right. But
So we see the forehead tension relax. We still see some hard swallowing. Now, the reason why this line of questioning is coming through is because one of the things that was given to the FBI during Hoover's term, way back when, because the FBI used to be just criminal enforcement, was to now seek out and destroy all communists. And once you give power to an entity, that seems to be a blanket to do everything. So Dr. King, in order for them to justify going after him, was to say, oh, it's communism. He's communist. We had to get him. We just had to stop. He's communist. It's in our purview, which then allows legally for these grotesque letters, the things that they do to protect the nation. And so this senator is asking the question, but he's never been violent. He's never been to a communist meeting. He's not a card-carrying communist.
the peg for investigating was apparently that he was subject to communist influence.
Yes.
Now, what makes that a justified reason for investigating him? Is it a crime to be approached by someone who's a communist?
No.
Well, what is the legal basis for that investigation?
The basis would be...
So he asked him, well, what's the legal basis? He's actually got to dig this one out. He rolls back in his chair, comes forward, readjusts himself for a tighter stress. The eyeballs go over to construction. Now he's got to make it up on the spot. What would be the legal basis? Because they've already heard it when the files were read out to the public. So that doesn't wash.
The communist influence on him and the effect it would have upon the organization would be in connection with our basic investigation of the Communist Party.
Yeah, well, as I understand the...
and not really an answer. Well, it goes because there's an influence. Basically, somebody approached Dr. King, who was a communist. It may have been just a handshake, like, hey, thank you, blah, 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 see you later. Or met at the laundromat, walking down the street, pumping gas at the same time. Who knows? But because that happened, it has justified their investigation and the shenanigans that happened. And of course, we all know how Dr. King's story ended. Episode 2 of Skinwalker Ranch has been released. And as we follow along with the reality of it, is it real or is it not? This time, supposedly, they saw something.
Oh, there it is again. There it is again. There it is again.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.